The Young and the Restless spoilers next week. Update July 29th to August 2nd, 2024. Claire had a shrewd intuition that Summer would head to Paris next, and she had meticulously crafted a plan to bring their pointless feud to an end. As predicted, Claire's dark side had surfaced while living with Jordan, revealing her as a ruthless adversary. However, when Victoria took her in, Claire's demeanor shifted unexpectedly to one of docility. Yet, when faced with danger and adversity, Claire's cruel nature would re-emerge, and it was clear that Summer was in grave peril. Was it inevitable that Summer would meet her demise, vanishing from existence entirely? Meanwhile, Connor had returned to Genoa City in relatively good health. However, his parents' ceaseless turmoil had left him weary and disillusioned. Both Chelsea and Adam had deceived him, shattering his trust in them and in everyone around him. Connor had become the sole focus of Adam and Chelsea's concern, with everyone else relegated to the periphery of their attention. In the midst of this familial chaos, Victor was tirelessly working to reassign the roles within the family, aiming to quell the jealousy and animosity that plagued them. His greatest frustration stemmed from the constant strife between Adam and Nikki, whose incessant conflicts were a source of perpetual tension. Paris, the stage is set. Summer had always found solace in Paris, the city of lights and love. But this trip was different. She felt an inexplicable sense of dread, as if an ominous cloud was looming over her. Little did she know, Claire had been anticipating her arrival, meticulously planning her every move. Claire's transformation. Claire's life had been a series of dramatic shifts. Under Jordan's influence, she had been a cruel and calculating individual. But Victoria's acceptance had triggered a profound change in her, or so it seemed. Claire had become unexpectedly meek, which threw everyone off guard. They underestimated her capacity for ruthlessness that could be reignited at any moment. The deadly encounter. The day Summer arrived in Paris, Claire was ready. She had spent weeks mapping out Summer's likely movements, familiarizing herself with every nook and cranny of the city. When the moment finally came, Claire's previously dormant savagery was unleashed with full force. Confronting Summer in a secluded alley, her eyes gleamed with a terrifying intensity. "Summer, you should have stayed away," Claire hissed, her voice dripping with menace. Summer's heart pounded in her chest. "Claire, this feud is pointless. We can end this without violence." But Claire was beyond reasoning. In her twisted mind, only one solution existed: to eliminate Summer once and for all. In a flurry of violence, the confrontation escalated, leaving Summer defenseless against Claire's wrath. The attack was swift and brutal, ensuring that Summer would not escape. The aftermath. News of Summer's tragic end spread quickly, sending shockwaves through her family and friends. Her absence left an irreplaceable void, and the reality of her death was hard to accept. She was gone, her presence erased from the lives of those who loved her. Connor's turmoil. Back in Genoa City, Connor's physical health had improved, but the emotional toll of his parents' deception weighed heavily on him. Chelsea and Adam had both lied, shattering his trust and leaving him feeling isolated and betrayed. Connor withdrew further, the one stable element in his life now tainted by dishonesty. Adam and Chelsea, despite their differences, united in their concern for Connor. He was their top priority, overshadowing any other concerns. They realized that their actions had deeply hurt their son, and they were desperate to rebuild his trust and provide him with a sense of security. Victor's struggle. Victor, the patriarch of the Newman family, was caught in a relentless battle to restore harmony among his children. He saw the destructive potential of their jealousy and resentment and worked tirelessly to realign their roles within the family. His efforts were most challenged by the ongoing friction between Adam and Nikki. Their mutual antagonism created constant upheaval, testing Victor's patience and resolve. A glimmer of hope? As Victor continued his efforts to mend the family rifts, Adam and Chelsea faced a daunting task. They needed to confront their own failings and find a way to support Connor through his emotional recovery. They knew it would take time, but they were committed to earning back his trust. Claire's actions had cast a long shadow, reminding everyone of the dangers of unchecked ambition and revenge. The tragic loss of Summer served as a stark reminder of what was truly important. For Adam, Chelsea, and the rest of the Newman family, the path forward was fraught with challenges, but also with the hope of healing and reconciliation. Sharon sat alone in her living room, a sense of unease washing over her as she stared at the envelope that had mysteriously appeared in her mailbox. With trembling hands, she opened it, her eyes scanning the words written in an unfamiliar, harsh scrawl. Stay quiet and live your life. Do not bother anyone. A chill ran down her spine. It was a clear threat, intended to intimidate her into silence. The immediate thought that crossed her mind was that Nick or Phyllis might be behind this. The humiliation of such an act was unmistakable. Nick had recently expressed his desire to live peacefully with Phyllis. He had made it clear that he wanted to move on from their tumultuous past. However, Nick was not the type to resort to such cowardly tactics. He was conflicted, he wished for a serene life with Phyllis but never wanted to cause Sharon any harm. The idea of Nick orchestrating this threat was unsettling, yet there was a nagging suspicion that he might have done it out of desperation to ensure his new relationship remained undisturbed. Meanwhile, the anticipation of Abby and Devon's wedding loomed large. It was a union that promised complexity and drama, much to the dismay of those closest to Abby. Many within her family opposed the marriage, voicing their disapproval openly. Devon, once a man of considerable repute, had seen his credibility plummet in recent times. His decisions and actions had eroded the respect he once commanded, leaving him isolated and scorned by many. Even Victor, who had once considered Devon a friend, now harbored a deep disdain for him. Their friendship had soured, casting a shadow over the impending nuptials. As Sharon pondered the threat and the turmoil surrounding her friends, she couldn't help but feel a growing sense of isolation. The letter was a stark reminder of the precariousness of her position, and she realized that she needed to tread carefully. If Nick or Phyllis were indeed behind the threat, confronting them directly could escalate matters further. In the days that followed, Sharon found herself increasingly wary of her surroundings. Every shadow seemed menacing, and every unexpected noise made her jump. She was on edge, unable to shake off the fear that had taken root in her heart. The letter had achieved its purpose, it had silenced her, at least for now. Despite her fear, Sharon knew she needed to stay strong. She had faced numerous challenges in her life, and this was just another hurdle to overcome. She resolved to find out who was behind the threat, but she would do so discreetly, without alerting Nick or Phyllis. Meanwhile, the preparations for Abby and Devon's wedding continued, albeit under a cloud of tension. Abby was determined to marry Devon despite the opposition, but she couldn't ignore the disapproval that surrounded her. She found herself constantly defending her decision, trying to convince her family that Devon was the right choice. Devon, on the other hand, struggled with his diminishing respectability. He knew that regaining his reputation would be a long and arduous process, but he was committed to proving himself worthy of Abby's love. He hoped that their marriage would be a turning point, a chance to start anew and rebuild his standing in the community. As the wedding day approached, Victor's animosity towards Devon became more apparent. The patriarch of the Newman family had made no secret of his disapproval, and his cold treatment of Devon was a stark contrast to their once amicable relationship. Victor's disdain was rooted in a sense of betrayal, a feeling that Devon had let him down in ways that were unforgivable. The tension within the Newman family reached its peak on the eve of the wedding. Arguments erupted, harsh words were exchanged, and the atmosphere was thick with resentment. Abby found herself torn between her love for Devon and her loyalty to her family. The stress of the situation weighed heavily on her, but she remained resolute in her decision to marry the man she loved. On the morning of the wedding, as Abby prepared to walk down the aisle, she took a moment to reflect on the turmoil that had led to this day. She knew that marrying Devon would not be easy, that their path would be fraught with challenges. But she also knew that their love was strong enough to withstand the storm. As the ceremony began, the tension in the air was palpable. Family members exchanged wary glances, and whispers of disapproval could be heard. But Abby and Devon stood firm, their love for each other shining through the chaos. Victor watched with a stoic expression, his feelings of betrayal and disappointment simmering beneath the surface. He knew that this marriage would change the dynamics within the family, but he also knew that there was no turning back. As the vows were exchanged, Sharon, seated among the guests, couldn't help but feel a sense of solidarity with Abby.